what? I haven't beaten this guy since he was in high school, so now's a good chance to change that. Let's see though. It's easier said than done. Off in the top right-hand side of the map, representing NC Sports, he is Serral,
who seems to have a pretty good win rate against everyone in this group, and just everyone in general, really, except for, I guess, Reina. And in the bottom left, in the red, with the Katowice shirt on still, it is Kaisi Gaming Solar.
and always think of this as a big map because there's a lot of space across it. But with those boosty zones, only 2 seconds extra across the map for a worker compared to Submarine, which obviously Submarine being the smallest rush distance in the pool. And therefore it is one where we do occasionally see an early pool here, but just hatch first for both of these players. And definitely you can always see their faces. I absolutely love that we have the players' faces, you know, constantly on screen. I'm always just kind of looking at them and going, you know, I saw Solo kind of adjust in his seat, shuffle a little bit, and you could see him trying to kind of consciously relax a little bit. Serral looking focused as ever, and I'm always just looking to see who looks a bit more nervous, who looks a bit more thrown off after a big mistake. It's so good to be able to get that window right into the player's home and see what they're like in their native environment.
Yeah, we just saw Serral yawn right there, which means that no doubt he's having the time of his life right now here in Group D. Yet to drop a map, as is Solar. So it's about to happen to somebody. Someone's about to take damage here. It is a bit of a ho-hum opening for both players, just like hatch, gas, pull. No one doing anything wild, not starting the things off with a 12 pull. I think you nailed it in that I think that these players are going to generally be on the defensive. And if I have to pick a guy that's probably going to put on the aggressive pants, it's probably going to be Solar to basically gut check Serral and see how good he is at holding some kind of crisp timing that he might have specifically for this matchup. And Serral, you know, such a good reactive player and such a good scouting player that it'll be hard to sneak something on him.
Indeed, and I definitely anticipate this in Game 1, but Serral has really changed his in the last year, where he's been so aggressive, you know, especially against players like Raynor. Solar's often trying to, Serral, is trying to kill Raynor before Raynor gets away with one of his little cheeky moves, and I see there Solar actually pulled a drone off in the early game and checked the edge of creep in his main base to see if there was a hidden spine crawler, in case there was a 12-pool spine crawler rush. So the fact that Solar is checking for that against Serral shows just how different Serral in 2021 is in terms of how many, you know, such a range of aggressive strategies he does mix in. And players are not just worried about the slow macro game like they were in 2018.
Yeah, things have definitely changed a lot in this game. I love, that's one of the reasons I've been sticking around with StarCraft so long, is that the game feels like a living organism, that it is just changing and adapting as time goes on, as players get better at it. Bailing Nest going down here for Solar. Is Serral getting a Bane Nest, or is he skipping it this game? I didn't see here.
Looks like he's going to try to go straight up to Roaches by the look of it.
That's
really
a Ling
cool.
Blood Pig from Solar here.
Okay, so that is going to be, lots of Lings. And this is kind of what you want to do to cover the fact that you skip the Baneley Nest. Go into the Roach Warren behind it, drone hard behind it. And, I mean, it seems like a lot, you building 20 Zerglings. But keep in mind, he skipped the Baneley Nest. That already saves him a whole bunch of money. And here we go. The Lings are going to look to put on the aggression. Now, if you cancel the third, that is huge. But only one Baneling making? Really? Serral being a bit greedy there. Now he makes another Baneling. But, man, really trying to skimp on his defenses.
Oh, that one Bane only gets 2 Lings here, so that means if Solar picks up this other Ling, it's all his army. He's got way too many units here for Serral to deal with at the moment. He's morphing a couple more Banes in the natural, and Solar seems like he's going to spend a bit more time to make sure this third dies. And he is going to get it, but yeah, I mean, that's an easy pick off there for Solar.
Yeah, Serral only making 1 Baneling was so incredibly greedy. It was already a late Baneling, and then to lose it and only have 1 more morphing and it go down before it even finishes, like that was just incredible greed from Serral. A bit of a slow reaction, and Solar starts off this game with a nice advantage. 8 Roaches coming out behind it. So Solar, I mean, he's building drones behind it. I don't know, these 8 Roaches seem kind of unnecessary. Like, he's going to commit to a poke with them, and it will force Serral to build a lot of units, but it's not going to be backed up by anything. So it kind of comes down to how quickly can Serral realize that this is not an all-in and that Solar's just using this to force units out while droning up himself. Solar turns around pretty quickly, but does force another 10 Zerglings out of Serral.
Yeah, so that's actually jobs done there from Solar. He has this army, which is relatively expensive, but for this phase of the game, but he's forced out a lot of units out of Serral, which means they aren't drones, as Solar maintains that drone lead here, 34 versus the 32, and he's had that third hatchery, of course, on his side of the map. It hasn't been threatened by Serral yet until right now, as he swings on in with those lings. Solar intercepting, though, with his own Zerglings and having those roaches coming for the natural.
Serral's going all in. He realizes he's a little behind, having not built so many workers, so he's just going to go for a giant surround here. He does get a big wraparound. Melee's not quite done, though, so I think maybe he's pulled the trigger a bit too early. Yeah, Serral there, I do think, because he already showed all of his Zerglings, that was not quite the setup I wanted to see. Because he morphed those Banelings defensively, he really did over-respect that Roach Push. It was not just the Zerglings, it was the Baneling morph as well. And he was in a really nasty position. I think what I would have liked to see there is him forward, split a few Lings forward, pull back, pretend all of his Lings have come home, morph those Banelings on the front of the map, and then flood out and hit with +1 melee. I think if he did that, there's a chance that Solar's droning a bit too much. Maybe Solar's Roaches move out on the map, you can get a surround on them. But the way that one worked, it just was a little bit over-eager from Serral, and Solar now finds himself in a massive advantage.
Swings on in, sees no lair, sees a low drone count. He's just like, all right, well, this is going to be just defensive here. Let's just make units. Let's plug the holes. Make sure that those Lings don't get on into the soft underbelly of my infrastructure. Those Roaches getting surrounded on left side. Right side, relatively safe, though. The Baneling's not finding a big cluster of Roaches. That left side of Roaches might go down, but is there enough left from Serral to capitalize? Those Baneling connections not too bad on these Roaches, but just not enough. And Solar takes that game one with a little bit of a bamboozle.
Yeah, very basic issues going on in the opening there of Serral. And you could see from his face, he was shaking his head with a bit of a smile. It was the sort of frustrated smile saying, I can't believe I let that opening go that way. Solar, that's just a solid build order. We see a lot of people do this. I'm going to pressure with Speedlings, pick off some things, damage your third base, force you to make a bunch of Banelings, and I'll just disengage. And you can't really counterattack across the map because my Lings will backstab you. They won't fight into the Banelings. But when your opponent only builds one Baneling and you can pick it off with 2 Lings and you're like, oh, really? We get the third base? Solar is like, oh, right, this is the perfect opening. And what a good way to start off this series.
Yeah, Solar yet to lose a map, and Serral finally being drawn blood here. And if it bleeds, we can kill it. We learned that in the 80s with the Predator movie, which a lot of us watched in the 90s because we were too young. All right, so we have Submarine next year. It is Serral's map pick, so we'll see what he's got it planned for. It feels like these days, especially the last year and a half, Serral's been a little bit more comfortable with just deciding, okay, I'm all-inning. Generally, Serral would be happy to be a little bit further behind, but just out macro and outplay his opponent, out defend, because it feels like his army movement is probably the best in the world. But some of his, when you are a player that does decide to go for those big all-ins, sometimes it can look really bad, like in game number 1, where we know with our ultimate information that it's a mistake, that it's not very likely going to work. But it either it's an all-in, so it either works or you lose. And that is unfortunately the situation there for Serral. He did lose. Submarine, I'm very interested though. Shortest map in the map pool. What is the plan here for the Finnish Zerg?
Yeah, we'll have to see exactly what he chooses to do as he spawns in the bottom right-hand side of the shortest rush distance map in the pool. In the red, it's NC Sports. Oh, sorry, that is Solar.
It's the other guy.
I can read names with S's in them, Maynard.
The top left here, this actually is literally Serral from NC Sports.
I thought that was I was like, wow, Ents have a lightning bolt as their symbol? I was like, whoops.
Actually, I've never completely understood what the Ents logo is. Is it like Cthulhu folding his mouth tendrils?
Oh, yeah.
What's going on?
Did you ever
here?
play Abe's Odyssey? Kind of looks like one of the bad guys in
yeah.
that game. I forgot what they're called.
Scribs, something like
yeah,
that.
Something like that.
Yeah, the ones that they go or they laugh like that or something like that. That weird 8 Odyssey laughs. Oh no, they had the croaky voices. They were like, "Hey," like that's what they sound like.
Oh yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that was them. Now I remember, dude. Throwing it back to the 90s video games on PlayStation 1. My goodness.
Yeah, some classic times, man. Some good platformer. Of course, this is going to be no Zergling pressure. This is such a Serral opening, man. He's like, all right, it's series point. I don't want to lose the match. So I'm going to go pool first, not build any Zerglings. Anyone else would try to sneak 6 Lings across the map off this sort of opening and, do some damage to Solar. But Serral, this was purely, if I see Lings coming, I can build earlier Queens and Lings to defend a 12 pool. As it is, I'm just going to play a macro game and accept that I'm 1 drone behind my opponent. No big deal. And that's totally fine because we've seen Serral is comfortable with that usually. He's happy to go Overlord speed. And when he is behind in a series, sometimes he does knuckle down with those extra safety precautions. Serral does not want to lose because of something that he hasn't scouted coming his way.
Yeah, and I really feel like that is the where he outplays most people in the world, is that sort of normal mid-game where he usually will outplay most people and then get into the late game a little bit more comfortably. But we are seeing the Baneling Nest again from Solar here, or rather coming from Solar instead of Serral. Serral is going for his own in the natural here, so both players playing the most standard of ZVZs. Usually there is a third to follow. And both of them, or rather Solar, getting into the main base for those Lings. I mentioned this, man, you can't stop Solar's Lings from getting in for that scout. And that Baneling Nest was tucked away here from Serral, so maybe you wanted to be a bit cheeky with it.
Indeed. I think it's not too bad having your Baneling Nest scouted, of course. Solid tech to be going for, but definitely a nice scout for both sides as they both rushed those Baneling Nests out. They're both being very respectful. Solar is going to go for 12 Zerglings, 8 for Serral. So it does look like Solar with 2 Banelings on the front wants to try and delay that third base. Serral's third going down, of course, a lot faster. Solar going to take up that aggressive stance. I think we saw a creep tumor spread, which is very important. You need to get that mobility so your queens can move down to the third base. And Solar's actually going to go 2-base muter behind this.
Yeah, all right. And dropping that lead, dropping that extra gas certainly looks like it. Queens and Lings going to zone back the couple Lings and couple Banes here, but the rest of them are coming on in to join in. It seems like Serral has enough to hold on here, so I don't expect any convincing damage to happen for Solar on the ground army. But yeah, the real story is the next follow-up here for Solar, as Serral's going for that Roach War, and he seems like unknown of the dangers within. Obviously, hasn't gone for that follow-up scout just yet, concentrating on trying to get rid of Solar's Lings. Another one getting in the main for a scout.
Yeah, Lings are about to try to get in now for Serral because he realizes no third base, and I think seeing the gases, he already should know roughly what he's up against here. It's Ling Bane, a quick lair on 2-base. You know this is muters. Now, how do you counter this as Serral? Serral in the past does not enjoy playing long games against muters. I think he's in a good enough spot, 3-base versus 2-base, that the best way to play is build more queens and just defend. But he might try to get a Nidus Worm out or something like that. So, I mean, personally, I just want to see Serral play to the mid game, play to the late game. You've got such early warning of this being muter tech. This is not a very quick spire. It's only starting at 4 minutes 30. And as Serral, if you can drone that third mineral line, that is where your advantage lies, right? Pull your overlords off the map, which he hasn't started doing yet, surprisingly, so he's taking a long time to do it. But if you drone your third base up against a 2-base opponent, you've got a full extra base mining. That's a huge advantage the longer the game goes.
Serral gets a Ling in there, and the natural sees both gases taken, sees the lair. I don't think he saw the spire, but seeing all those gases taken can probably put 2 and 2 together here and realize that it does indeed equal 4. Okay, he has seen all 4 gases, so I think he knows that this is very likely spire from Solar. Of course, you can use gases for things like Ravages and whatnot, but it's so popular right now in ZVZ to go for this play.
Lots of queens on the way, +1 range of the lair. Very late for Serral, but he doesn't care. He's droning really hard, slowly adding on his gas geysers. Meanwhile, Solar's Spire is almost finished. Now, I do worry that there's still so many overlords on the map for Serral. That's where value could be had with the muters. I mean, that's a really kind of uncharacteristic mistake for someone as good as Serral. He's starting to run them away in the edges. But he's definitely still got a few out there, and those muters on the way now. A transition into Roaches behind it for Solar, who's trailing by 9 workers. His own third base is about to finish, so he shouldn't be too far down behind on workers, but he's going to have map control with the muters. He'll be able to pick some units off. He's forcing Spore Crawlers out of Serral, and an Infestation Pit next in line for Serral, looking like he probably wants to go up to Hive, but you know what? I wouldn't mind him starting off with a couple of Infestors just in case.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. Just going for the couple infestors just to lock down the muters, make things a little bit easier for you. We've seen reactions to muters to sometimes just go into lurkers and really slow down the game. But we haven't seen the Hydrogen, of course, from Serral just yet. Just going to go up into the Infestation Pit tech. Things going for a bit of a run by here. Muters still kind of spending time on this side of the map cleaning up Serral's units. They got rid of the Overseer earlier, now they're going to get rid of the Lings, which means that Serral's got more time to get those spores up.
And that's a very important scout. He sees the roaches popping out, right? So that's pretty low economy roach production. So Serral's like, oh, okay, I got to build more roaches. You know, this could be a sneaky roach attack. Sometimes people will do 1 round of mutas, go into roaches and just hit you with a surprising attack when you're on like 70 drones, lots of spores, lots of queens, and oh, roaches? Really? This early? So a bit of threatening movements here from Solar. He has droned behind it though, so Solar's not all in. He's just looking to scare Serral, keep him worrying about things. And Serral not really using his tech past that just yet, just focusing on roaches. He's in survival mode. But as he scouts here and sees that that third base is up, he starts a hive, a second evolution chamber, 2 infestors. And this is just Serral to a T, right? He looks, he says, are you committing to the roach attack? He sees no, and then he just pulls the trigger on his next phase. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Hydra Den here as well. But for now, no Hydra Den or Lurker Den. So is it maybe just going to be a Roach Queen Infestor push across the map, maybe?
Or Vipers,
he's not building
maybe?
any
Like,
mobile
so
ends.
weird.
Yeah.
Like what is the Hive for here? You don't need Hive to continue to go Roach Ravager Queen Infestor, but you know, obviously you're gonna unlock some tier 3, and Viper is something that could make sense, but it seems like considering there's only a small flock of mutas, there's not that many mutas, that kind of seems like an overreaction almost. It is gonna be interesting.
Blinding
Maybe
Cloud.
Ultras.
Yeah, no, I think without melee, Blinding Cloud is still going to be good, but it's just in case.
True.
It's like, hey, if you'd build a big round of mutas, I can still make that parasitic bomb tech, and like maybe he just squeezes 1 Viper out by default, and you're just like, oh yeah, okay, like I got queens, let's just use it for Blinding Cloud or whatever. But for now, Serral is being a little ahead in economy. He's trying to secure a 4th base. Muta's being nice and annoying, picking off Banelings up there. The Roach Ravager moving down around the bottom left-hand side. If they can get a snipe on the 4th, that would be awesome. Solar getting great value out of this small pack of mutas, just preserving them for now. Doesn't want to lose them, and does pull them back. Great attention to detail here for Solar.
Yeah, very nicely done with the mutas. I love that he's just continuing to find value, continuing to keep them alive. Like, it's not a massive investment from him at this phase of the game, but as long as it finds damage here and there, it's great for him. So we got the Infestors here for Serral. Can he get some fungals off on this army? Not really.
Bad angle
Solar
for
actually
Serral.
yeah, Solar got a really good engagement there. Down comes some Biles, though. Those connecting Biles kind of turning this battle on its head a little bit there for the finish, Zerg, as he turns that battle around and excuses him from the premises.
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of accidentally stuck behind his hatchery at the start of that fight. Serral had to just move command for the first 2 seconds, but Solar, in his eagerness to capitalize, did end up clumping his entire army underneath a fungal bile combo. And Serral preserves the 4th base. Yes, he loses an Infestor, but he builds it again straight away. His Hydra Den's now finished. He's slowly adding a couple of workers here and there, and he's got that 2 upgrade advantage. But actually, no, that's going to disappear in a moment, actually, because Solar's upgrades kicking in as well. Solar is really focused on roaches. He's got tunneling claws finished, but there's spores everywhere. So it's just a massive roach ravager clash.
It is indeed. And there is an infestor advantage for Serral and also the defender's advantage of the Queens. This seems like a lot more roach ravager for Solar in the fight at the moment, but he gets pushed back again because of the defender's advantage here for Serral. Muta's sort of sharking around the map, trying to be useful as well. He's pushing back a little bit of creep. He's getting some hit points on the 4th base and also picking off a few units of Serral, but isn't quite maxed out just yet. And while the upgrades are very similar, not having to spend any army supply on the Mutas right now means that the ground army of Serral is just that little bit more powerful.
I love this roach backstab. Even though it's not going to do a lot of damage, it just pulls some units home. And he's got +3 on the way. He's got Hydra upgrades on the way. You know, Lurkers will be next on the menu for Serral as well. So yeah, he trades out 4 roaches for 4 drones. Not directly cost efficient, but I think it's enough.
Well, we are seeing +3 start here for Serral. The 4th base attack looking good for Solar at the start here as the army of Serral out of position. I think it was in the middle of the map there. So Solar capitalizing on this mispositioning here of Serral's army to try and pick off that 4th base, which I think he's going to get. A huge pick off there for Solar. Well done. Even going to bile down those eggs before they hatch.
Yeah, the Muta's denying the map vision there was fantastic. He goes after the drones, though, and Serral comes in with a fungal bile combo, catches some of the Ravagers, and he's going to catch a lot of that army. Hard for Solar to disengage when he's trapped by fungal growth. Nice micro here by Serral and good patience. The Mutas come in. The fact that those Mutas are still alive, what an annoying player Solar is. And Serral, I mean, it was the Mutas that cleaned up the Overlords that allowed him to sneak that Roach army and to snipe the 4th to kill those workers. But at the same time, Serral answering with his own little Roach run-bys keeps the worker lead. 59 drones to 56 during that. I didn't even see where it was on the map. There's so much going on. But he's coming in again, is Solar. There's a lot of Hydras in, which are high damage, but they're not very tanky. And he knocks Serral back to 3 base. So even with that worker advantage, Serral doesn't have the 4th base, and yeah, his Roach Run by is coming in. He's getting more worker kills. This is important counter damage, but if he can't secure a 4th, it's going to be for nothing.
You're absolutely right. Like, he's getting damage here, but if he doesn't get a 4th hatchery, there is just basically time for Serral that he does not have. So the longer the game goes, the better it will be for Solar. Unless Solar takes like a massive drone hit, like maybe loses 20 plus drones, then of course a different story. Solar swinging around here to make sure the 4th hasn't been attempted again from Serral, even leaving a pocket of roaches there to intercept and attempt at that 4th base as Serral tries to take the 12:30, 1 o'clock location. Hydra's catching a couple of the mutas here. And you mentioned it, Pig, the Hydras are very high DPS. They've got a little bit more range, so they're a very good backline unit for this army, but there's not a lot of frontline tanking units in those roaches. A lot of roaches here for Solar.
The bottom side of the fight goes terribly for Solar. He loses a whole bunch of Ravagers in the front line. The top side started okay for him, but he lost about 5 or 6 Ravagers there.
Ooh.
Does come in with a Roach Run by, though. Goodbye, Roach Run. Transfuse not able to save that one. The Rally's going to try to deal with that, but Solar capitalizes on this. He says, hey, while you're dealing with that, I'm going to push in on the front. Serral, though, multitasking, just out of this world, does manage to set up the concave, but he needs to hang on right now, and Solar realizes he's got that extra base mining during this. If he can trade right now and get rid of some of these Hydras, it's going to be impossible for Serral to replace them, and you know what? He's picking off Hydras with Bile. He's still on basic Roach Ravager. Now, Serral's getting an upgrade advantage. He's got +3 attack. He's got +2 carapace. He's got the Hydras. Give him time. Serral will have the better army. Solar cannot give him that time. He's going to keep pushing in. He finds Hydras in the open.
He does indeed. The middle of the army here for Serral in the 3rd base area is a little bit squishy. Hydra's coming in for the 4th base. He's pouncing on top of these roaches and Ravagers, engaging to a fight. I don't know if he can actually win, though. I mean, he does have +3 attack, so there is an upgrade advantage for here. Serral's got a little bit more damage on his units, but it feels like such a hard fight to call. The Roach Run by again from Serral, finding more drones. He's remade the Roach Warren so he can get back into Roach production again, but he's just trying to find everything he can, trying to make lemonade with these lemons. It feels like Serral fighting uphill, though, as Solar maintains a maxed out supply. The Serral's building too many Hydras. Advantage for Solar. He's going ham on these Hydras.
There's too many. He's going over 30 Hydralists with only 15 roaches. This is inarguable. This is a mistake. You cannot do this, Serral. I got to be highly critical because it's a bad strategic choice. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of pressure on him, but he's gone way overboard on the Hydra count. He needs more roaches. They're a cheaper, tankier unit. And right now, you just need to survive. All you need to survive is roaches. But look at this. Hydra's in the open. The roaches and Ravagers jumping on top. The Bile's landing. Solar finding the fight he needs in that abundance of Hydras. Yes, they're high damage. Is that going to come in the tail end of the fight? The Hydra damage just cleanses the Ravagers. Serral barely hangs on.
He also takes a good tussle there in the natural, getting a very good trade, actually, the run by there of Solar with his hatched out roaches and Hydras. Somehow Solar not able to break Serral there. I thought he had it at that base at 12 o'clock. I thought at 4 o'clock that was about to end right there as the Hydras was getting thinned out really quickly for Serral. More Ravagers coming in. Serral starting to throw in a few more of his own. The roach count getting a little bit healthier here for the Finnish Zerg. The Korean Zerg trying again at 12 o'clock, but now the army is even bigger and a little bit more convincing. And Serral actually forces Solar to tap after a huge tug-of-war there between two great Zergs from both regions. Damn.
Wow. Isn't that just like the Serral game we know and love, where it's hanging on and he's behind in bases, but he's more efficient, he's progressing the tech. Such a nail-biter. Ties up the series.
Yeah, that was one of those like knocked down to the ground. The guy's like got the gun against your head and he just like throws like a dust up into his eyes, sweeps the leg and somehow turns it all around. That looked like a Solar win to there. I was feeling it for the Solar 2-0, but Serral pulling it back and getting a tied series is going to go to the third game after the break, guys. So we'll see you then for the decider. Don't go away. G'day, mates. Welcome back. We are in our first game 3 of the day here, with Serral and Solar going toe-to-toe in what appears to be a really closely matched ZVZ series. I mean, kind of said that if Serral was going to go down out of this group, it would probably be at the hands of Solar. The ZVP seems to be a bit of a done deal for the Finnish Phenom, but Solar making Serral work hard if he needs to get out of this one. It'd be so sick to see Solar top this group, by the way. You know, we were mentioning that it's been a long time since he's turned the head of the community. There's been already some big upsets here in the tournament, and Solar's looking to make it happen in Group D. In the top right from Kaiser Gaming, it is the Korean Zerg looking fire in the series. It is Solar.
And the man who likes to play with our heartstrings, often just hanging on by a hair's breadth, but in the end, so often coming out triumphant. In the bottom left, representing it's Serral.
Yeah, buddy. Oh, that was such a crazy game 2 there on Submarine. Definitely my favorite game of the night so far. I mean, it's night for us, I guess. Morning and afternoon for a lot of you guys out there in Chatland. So apologies.
I still can't get over that Hydra count. Man, I'm like, dude, like, so anyone who's played a lot of like these big Roach Hydra wars and stuff in Zerg vs. Zerg has had the feeling where they get too heavy on Hydras because like they're slower than Roaches. Only a little bit once they got those upgrades, but they are slower than Roaches. And because they're less tanky, the thing is like Roaches, if you get caught out of position, they can like just adjust and move around, right? They can dodge bios, they can move because they're tankier, lower damage units. So moving for a little bit doesn't cost you as much. But with a Hydra, it's so fragile. It's got only 80 hit points versus 145 hit points in a Roach, and it's a little slower. It's all about, it needs to be like doing damage and taking the enemy down beforehand. So if you're ever caught where your Hydras are all clumped up and you've got to spread them while they're taking damage, bam, you're already losing a crazy amount of damage output because they're all starting to die while they move and reposition. So the fact that Serral was able to manage those concaves on that northern base that he'd secured to keep the Hydras spread in a big arc so that they were all firing at once while defending the constant attacks into his natural and main base from Solar. I mean, that is just my favorite sort of Serral game where he showcases his skill is when a player as good as Solar throws the kitchen sink at him, is doing everything right where it doesn't take a big failing from the defender to lose there. And Solar's like, yeah, this should work. Like, I'm putting so much pressure on, I will find a good angle with my Roach Ravager. And he finds himself walking into a giant arc of Hydras, and his Ravagers actually get gunned down. And I'm like, man, I don't know how Serral pulls these games off, but it's absolutely splendid to watch.
That fight at 12 o'clock at that fourth base of Serral as well was the decider of the game, I felt. And it felt like it was balanced on the knife edge. I'm like, oh boy, both armies are evaporating quickly here. Who's going to be out on top when the dust settles? And it ended up being Serral, of course. We do have both players in a very, very similar build from both players. Very mirrored. 2 Lings attacking each other's third bases, just getting that scout off more than anything. This usually follows with the Bailey Nest in the natural, which seems like Serral's gotten the first Bailey Nest here. Solar yet to make his just yet.
Ooh, getting quite a bit of damage on that third, but not going to be able to get the cancel, of course. Could set up for a future Ling Bane pressure, though. Definitely the third base quite exposed, so, you know, that's a good place to attack. Later on, it's very hard to do damage there, but Solar, same build order from map 1 of this series. Lots of Zerglings into a Roach Warren, going to cover the lack of a Baneling Nest with that. This time around, Serral needs to build Zerglings. He's got his Overlords well positioned. He'll see the Lings coming out. He's got to make more Banelings, and he's got to make them as quickly as possible. He sees the Lings coming. Serral, once again, only making 1 Baneling. He makes the second one now. He's got to micro these perfectly.
Certainly does. Serral not going to be too cavalier with these Baneling morphs too this time. The Solar goes for an extremely similar strategy to game number 1. The Banelings coming in now for Serral. The third base will go down though. Solar with the pick off again. Oh, and the Baneling did not cluster that didn't get the splash in that big group of Lings either. So Solar getting a very great start to this game with that third pick off.
Yeah, beautiful opening once again, and that's the danger of the Baneling Nest not being fast enough. This is something where when people get good at doing those timings, if you're playing someone who can pull that off the way Solar did, like, it is actually an adjustment some players will make where they just get that Baneling Nest 10 seconds earlier, and they always instantly make the Banelings on time. And it's such a small adjustment, but it really does protect your third from this sort of attack. You've got to have those Banelings ready when the Lings first arrive, but Solar there setting it up well. Once again, does the Roach push out, And Serral finds himself going melee and lair. This is the same situation as map 1, but he sees roaches, he builds more zerglings, and Zergling comes in, he detonates a Baneling to take it out. He doesn't want to get scouted right now. The Queen actually blocks that Zergling. One Queen surround on the Ling.
Very, very cute. But yeah, we do have, of course, I feel like a pretty decent, comfortable position here for Solar. Up 9 drones. You got roaches, you got +1 attack coming for those roaches as well. You are feeling comfortable here as the Korean Zerg. And it's up to Serral. The onus is on him to come up with a plan here. Is it just a lot of +1 Lings and maybe going into Spire a little bit later? Like, does he go Spire this game? A good denial on these Lings, though. We've seen in Game 1 and Game 2, every time Solar wants to scout Serral, he'll get it. This time, Serral is denying a lot of scouting, and this Ling flood is unscouted.
Yeah, Solar messed up his Overlord positioning. His Overlord pulled too far back on the left. I think it's because the Queen pushed it back, so his Lings are not scouted until they get halfway across the map. They are now going to go in on that third base. Roaches in the open. The Lings looking for a big surround. Melee is not done, remember, so it's just an overwhelming number of Lings. But I think with that Roach count, Solar might just have enough. His Roach is done. He's trying to morph Ravages to keep them alive. But Solar's Roach Reinforce comes over. Serral's going to focus down the Spine Crawler. He started a Spire behind this, but this is a desperate attack. And remember, Solar is up 15 workers. This needs to do big damage, and it's just not finding it.
Yeah, this is looking really similar to Game 1. In fact, it's looking a little bit worse for Serral here in Game 1, in Game 3 rather, versus Game 1. He's going for Spire. Obviously, Mutas can be something, but he's put so much lava and so much money into these Lings. Now, Lings feel free, but when you lose 20 or 30 of them, it's a big deal.
Yeah. This is fundamentally a situation where Solar's playing super duper safe after, and he's almost baiting this response out of Serral, where he's like, yeah, come on, try to make something happen with your Ling Flood. And he just builds plenty of roaches. He gets a healthy drone advantage. But it's actually the situation where you look at it and you're like, hey, if Serral actually just kept denying scouting, but was building drones the whole time, going for a Spire as quickly as possible, waiting for his melee upgrade, and just using it kind of passively, he'd actually, I think, be in an okay playable position. But because he's committing so hard to these attacks, and Solar's just playing very safe. And look at this, Solar scouts the third with 1 drone on it, and he goes, okay, cool. Good to know that at best you're even on economy with me, at best. And that's very unlikely. So mass roaches are here, and I think it's just going to be a +1 roach attack. Now, you might think, well, Mutas rain down death on that. There's nothing that shoots up. Yeah, it's 2 Mutalisks, though, Maynard. It's 2.
Not a convincing amount of Mutas, if I do say so myself. Lings of Solar getting in for a look there. You might have just clipped that Spire. Might have just seen that there with that Ling. 6 Mutas starting to come out now for Serral. It feels like he needs to slow the game down a little bit, get that drone count looking a little bit healthier, and rely very heavily on the Mutas to keep Solar away from him. Oh, this could be good for the Roaches, though, in that choke point.
Yeah, good pullback by Solar. The Lings are going to go for this surround on the left. That's a bit of a better one, but once again, these Roaches just not quite getting completely surrounded initially. The Mutas are going to start to do damage. The Lings go for the backstab, which is absolutely what they've got to do. There are Lings trying to come out here. Serral, though, going to use his Ling count, trying to do what he can. There's still popping, though, and dude, Solar just has so many units. He's going to try and come in. I feel like Serral needs to, like, fully wall this base. Like, if he had an extra Evo fully walling, that would actually probably be a better case. The Mutas are doing some damage. It is the right advantage, and there is a dream here for Serral. But, I mean, that roach count says, yeah, you better get a move on with that dream. Those Mutas are going to take a long time to kill this many roaches.
That's right, Ping. I actually feel like this is going to be a nail in the coffin for Serral for this game. I don't think he's getting out of group in first place. I think Solar's going to do it. These roaches, they will go down eventually to the Mutas, but what's going to be left by the time that they're dealt with? 12 drones have died already. More than double the worker count here for Solar. And his roaches are still finding damage, still fighting drones, still killing his ground army of Lings. The Mutas still taking 1,000 years, it feels like, to get rid of these roaches. Man, that is incredible damage from Solar, and he is worlds ahead right now in this game.
Yeah, this is so much damage. He's got Spores and Queens coming down extra behind it. Still looking with these roaches for more drones, but Muta's unable to mount a comeback from here. Yeah, you've got 3 hatcheries, but you've got to pull completely off gas, get droning done, and your Mutas also need to kill a huge amount in the counterattack, and they're going to start picking off Overlords, but Solar has a solid 70 supply free already. So definitely Serral in a bad position. And once again, I mean, it comes back to 2 things. It's number 1, not being ready for what is not a particularly unstandard Ling Flood. This was not a crazy hidden thing. It was 25 drone Ling Flood. This was not 18 drones. This was not 19 drones, 16 drones. This was a 25 drone Ling Flood on the third. And it's something which Serral I'm sure in his mind should not be losing the third hatchery to, but he's just a little slow on his Baneling Nest, his Baneling tech, a little light on his Zerglings. It feels like this is moving out in the early game right when all of his production just got spent on drones. And I think once again, Solar is showing a good knowledge of exactly when to strike against his opponents. He dispatched stats in quick succession, and it looks like he is ready to take Serral out in this series as well.
Yeah, so just trying to make magic happen here. Just get the fast wall off in the naturals. Stops the Ling run by there of Solar. And it's a glass half full scenario, but definitely, you know, we're make no mistake, guys, he is fighting uphill here against Solar, who seems to be holding all the cards in this game at the moment. He's gotten all the spores up at the third, and a nice little triangle there to cover pretty much every part of that third base. Natural main zoned by spores and queens. So while the Mutas can own this part of the map, they really can't get into the soft underbelly of Solar and find really critical damage here. I like that he's going for +1 and really leaning into the Mutalisks as basically his only trump card in this game. Like, that's the best thing Serral has in his arsenal at the moment is these Mutalisks. But Solar's about to take that away from him as he techs up to that Hydra Den and tier 3 with his superior economy.
Yeah, Serral's trying to keep up his Muta production, but honestly, I think he just needs to be hitting the drones to have any chance of getting back in this game. I do love the continual evos to wall off the base. I think that's such a cool adjustment. But Solar, it's like, nah, it's fine. Just going to keep droning, taking my gases. Mutas do get a couple of workers on this base and a gas, which is nice. Going to start to dance circles around the back. If there's any roaches out, they could thrust across the map to take advantage of the Mutas being out of position, but looks like it's just queens and drones right now for Solar.
Well, the Mutas are trying to find damage wherever they can. Good control and Mutas here from Serral, but also likewise good control and defenses from Solar, managing to make sure that most of his drones are safe and the queens continuing to keep tags on them. The Mutas also catching some roaches in the middle of the map. Not sure where these ones were going. Not sure where they were going there.
Yeah, I mean, because he saw all the Mutas behind his base, like he was like, okay, cool, I can push across, kill a few drones with this. Mutas will have to fly back through the queens to defend. But Serral here is like, hey, how about 2 control groups of Mutas? How about that? Let's try and micro my heart out in 2 plays once he sees the infestors, which is important, and realizes he's in that sort of situation. He's continuing to just go mass Muta. So Serral, oh my god, that is 8 infestors, Maynard. That's going to be so ridiculous, dude. Like, mass Muta, I guess if he surrounds in like 360 degrees, it's hard to do effective fungals. I feel like the fungal's almost better against Ling Bane on the ground, which Serral knows he's so poor. He's like, no, like, I'm only building drones and Mutas, and I need to like do big damage with them, and I need to stop your push when it comes with them. But it's going to be a mass Hydra infestor roach push, and dealing with that with Mutas is so hard.
Yeah, it's specifically designed to kill the Mutalisk. The only thing you're missing is a Viper, really, to have basically the trifecta of Mutas. Ooh, whiffs that fungal. So the Mutas do dance with the devil and come out alive there in the beginning. +2 attack starting for the Mutas here from Serral. He is just, he's clutching at whatever he has, and he's really just trying to make the game off the back of these Mutas. Like, it is all about these Mutalisks and what they can get done, and whether or not there are any openings in the armor of Solar. Is there any join in the armor where he can stab and potentially find some damage to make Solar bleed? Solar's done such a good job at defending against the Mutas, though, for the most part. He's taken a little bit of damage here and there, like chip damage, but he's been growing in supply, growing in infestors, and energy on those infestors, and now it looks like Solar's feeling confident about an actual attack.
Oh, get out of there. No, not like that, Serral. That is not how you engage into Infestor Hydra. Way too clumped up. He does get some Mutas on top, but the Hydra plus Fungal combo, absolutely deadly. And Serral tries to pounce, but way too clumped on those Mutas.
GG. All